What's your take on the response and what Alan Jackson asked for?
Yeah, this is the reason why across this entire country, bail has been reformed. In my state, in New Jersey, we certainly have, in my state, we have modified that away from monetary bail to look at risk assessments because, you know, we don't want defendants. And this is the extreme, obviously. This is a serious case and it's a very high bail, but there are many defendants across the entire country that are still in jail because they don't have the financial resources to come up with bail. And that is the reason for reform, to look at risk assessment. What is this defendant's prior history? Does he have a history of failure to appear? What are the facts and circumstances, which are also relevant, don't get me wrong. But when we talk about detention of a defendant during the pendency of cases, we want that to be whether or not they are a flight risk, whether or not there's a danger to the community, and whether or not there's a destruction of evidence. And in New Jersey, something like that wouldn't happen just because of bail. It would be on the risk assessments. And certainly there still could be detentions based on facts and circumstances. But that's why a lot of states are moving away from monetary bail as we have here in California. Yeah, unfortunately for Alan Jackson, there's not going to be a trooper proctor in this with the text messages and the very difficult problems that the state had in Massachusetts. Here, this is an accident case. So what is really going to be important is the evidence that comes from the vehicle. The defendant was driving one of a newer vehicle. I expect that there's going to be a black box in there that will have event data evidence that will show us what the speed was shortly before the accident. Also, in the clip that we heard law enforcement asking if there's any other witnesses that had a vehicle involved in this, because obviously if there's another crack, it could be that something else caused the injuries or the accidents. And then finally, I think Jackson's going to probably go after the murder charge because there's two levels of culpability here in this complaint. It's a murder, which we typically look at as like a purposeful and intentional murder. In California, it requires malice, which could be expressed or implied. And they're moving on implied based on the dangerous act with knowledge of risk and conscious disregard for human life. I think Jackson's going to try to bring it down to the manslaughter as opposed to the murder. Those are some thoughts that I think Jackson's thinking about right now.